So, Mark, I'm just gagging to ask you, how did it all happen with Daniel Craig and the cover for Entertainment Weekly? If you can just take us through the first email, the first phone call, yeah,
Sure.
please.
Yeah. In terms of Daniel Craig, in fairness, I don't consider him one of my clients. That's an ongoing thing necessarily. I know he has a number of different people he works with. Depends. I think he's got some people in London, and so I'm sure I'll work together with him at some point. But it's fair to say now, I don't. He's not one of my, you know, consistent clients. But so it happened in late November of last year, where my agency presented me, this option to work with Daniel Craig. I guess his people had um, reached out to my agency and said that Daniel liked my work and very much and would like to meet with me. And if that meeting went well, then I would be working with him on these 4 or 5 jobs the following week. So I flew it. I actually had, it was right before Thanksgiving in America, and that's a very big holiday here. They actually, it's like, take 4 days off, 5 days off. So I had plans to go to Seattle actually to be with friends, and that call came, and so I said I canceled that, and I went to New York and I met with Daniel, and we got on really well. I presented him, I had to present mood boards in terms of what I thought would be good for him image wise, and he considered it, liked where that seemed to be headed, and then I said, okay, cool. And then we ironed it out, the details, and then in New York the following week, we had 3 shoots planned. One of which was the Entertainment Weekly. Another is a gallery shoot, which you have not seen images yet. So for all those
Oh,
that
wow.
looking forward to seeing more, they're not out yet. You'll see a few, but that will roll out as press for the new James Bond film comes out.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, that would make you happy.
That's incredible.
Um, yeah, and then then there was Good Morning America was another um, date, and then some random press thing. So it was all sort of all these number of jobs lumped into one, and we had these large fittings that we sort out looks for this event and looks for this event and looks for that event, and then also there was the Omega. There was an Omega event that he was honored, for the new James Bond watch, and so I dressed him for that as well.
Incredible. So, for just going back to the Entertainment Weekly one, there's obviously the Tom Ford suit, the Turnbull Asser shirt going on there, uh, all James Bond brands. Now, are you coming to the table knowing about Daniel Craig, knowing about James Bond, and going, I'm going to align you with the brands that you already know so that we're in the same frame? Or does Daniel come to the table and go, actually, let's make this something else, let's break away from James Bond?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I did come with a number of brands that were not those particular brands. Some outsiders, I guess you would say, and some. Um, but ultimately, I'll present a rack full of clothes, 4 or 5 different options for Entertainment Weekly, and we tried other things, but these were just brands that over time he's developed a comfort level with. And so he did have suggestions. Turnbull was something he was very adamant about. He's like, I want to do a proper like Turnbull, Savile Row kind of feel. And that was carried over from some of the other images you haven't seen yet for the gallery shoot. So, and then we did the fitting for the Entertainment Weekly after we had done the fitting for all the other events and shots that you haven't seen. So I already knew which brands we were gravitating towards based on that first fitting. So by the time the second fitting came, I just kind of narrowed it down to like, okay, well, I've tried the other brands you're not so into and whatever, um, but there are, like, for instance, in the other images coming, Dior is a brand that he's come to really enjoy as of recently, since Kim Jones has been designing for Dior, and so That was one that we tried, but ultimately we just went with the Tom Ford for Entertainment Weekly.
Because he did wear the Dior Natch suit, the double-breasted one for the Knives Out premiere.
That's
So,
right.
and I know, I think it's Charlotte Hayward, her name from the Squire. Her name eludes me now, but she was telling me that this was something that she really had to drag him kicking and screaming to wear.
Hmm.
Um, how much can you really push Daniel into saying, "Look, come on, Daniel, I do think this is right for you."
Yeah, some people push more than others. I used to back in the day. I used to push a lot more in general, not just to Daniel, but
Because it's your reputation on the line as well, right? I mean, if
sure it
someone
is.
goes, "Look, I want to wear this," it's my call, it's my
Well, I
look.
will say I won't let anybody go out looking terrible. I don't care, So it may not be what I envisioned for somebody, but as long as it looks good and my name, I still feel comfortable with my name on it, then I'll concede and say, because ultimately you look great in Tom Ford. So, I had something else in mind, but this looks fantastic. So who am I to. And sometimes with these fittings, to be honest, you don't get that much time, especially in a week where he's doing press back to back to back to back. You might get 15 minutes, so there isn't time to push and push and push. And there was one moment where I tried to push him into, it was actually another Tom Ford, but it was a little bit more of a tobacco color and it had a bit of sheen to it. And then he just was like, it's not right, and I'm not feeling it. And I tried my push and then gave my 2 cents, but ultimately you just have to say, oh, well,
Yep,
cool. He knows what he likes,
that's interesting.
and he's very adamant about it. If he doesn't like, he's not going to do it. So,
Right.
um, and I recognize that personality type, and I'm not the one to push too far. You know, I don't want to frustrate somebody. This shouldn't be a very frustrating process, the clothing thing. Do you know what I mean?